Hello, and thank you for coming. My name is Corinne DeBray, and I am the Managing Director of the Foster. And I'm very excited to be introducing Catherine Chalmers, who is kicking off our new Guest Artist Explorer series at the Foster. So I'm very excited to have her here. And she is going to focus on her work that has been spans over the last, well, actually more than 3 years, but for this particular presentation, she's traveled to Panama, to Costa Rica, to study the behaviors of and to collaborate with leafcutter ants. And thanks to her very careful observational skills and her ability to document and to share her experiences, her art-making journey, we are, I think, transported to this world in a really magical way. So I've seen little snippets of this, and it gives an opportunity to appreciate the art of what she does, as well as the science and the field biology and some of the other wonderful interdisciplinary fields of study that allow us to appreciate her art. So please give a warm welcome to Catherine Chalmers.
Thank you, Corinne, and it's wonderful to have been invited by the Foster, and I'm honored to be the first of the Artist Explorers. That's pretty near and dear to me. And so you see why collaborate with insects. They outnumber us, we can't control them, and they don't share our values. The praying mantis often devours her mate, before, during, or after. Yet without them, we wouldn't be here. Plants wouldn't be pollinated, the soil would rot, and the ecosystem would crash in a matter of months. And how do we repay them for supporting us? By hating them. As an artist, this is rich terrain. My work is at the intersection of art, science, and nature. I do extensive research for each of my long-term multimedia projects, and a direct engagement with the natural world is central to what I do. My work aims to give form to the richness, as well as the brutality and indifference that often characterize our relationship with animals. I use the narrative possibilities of the visual arts to bridge the increasing gap between humanity and the ecosystem. I think our culture is far richer with the inclusion of other life forms. For the past decade, I have been working on a project with leafcutter ants. To quote from the eminent biologist E.O. Wilson, "These ants are the most complex social creatures other than humans. They are the charismatic mini-fauna, the Einsteins of the insect world." Leafcutter ants have eerie parallels to human society, and this is the conceptual basis of the project. Leafcutter ants inhabit the neotropics. They live in large underground colonies with up to 8 million members, where temperature and humidity are precisely controlled. It is a labyrinth of tunnels and chambers that can occupy 10 square meters and be 4 meters deep. The ants cut vegetation from high in the forest canopy and carry the pieces in their mandibles across the forest floor, traveling up to 100 meters on distinct trails, meticulously cleaned by them. From this plant material, they cultivate a fungus, which is their main food source. They are farmers. I worked with 2 different species of leafcutter ants. Atacephalotes, my favorite. They're all females, by the way. She is smooth, shiny, and more amber in color. And Atacolumbica, who is more matte and magenta. It's challenging to work with a subject that lives thousands of miles away from your studio in New York City. To embark on such an expedition entails meticulous planning, choosing the right equipment, the photographic cameras, lenses, lights, video equipment, sound recording. Takes months of research and testing. Forgetting a cord or a cable can derail the entire process. It has taken sustained determination, flexibility, and lots of good luck to produce this project. And the logistics of transporting all this equipment to a remote location is no small hurdle. With 700 pounds of gear, we were lucky to get it all in the airplane. Had to take the seats out. I started the project at a biological research station on a remote island off the Pacific coast of Panama. The island is a 3,500 hectare reserve consisting mostly of primary rainforest. Although I was able to complete the first video, We Rule, the island posed difficulties. It was home to only one mature colony of leafcutter ants, and that colony's location was far away from a power source. Relying on batteries for the lights severely limited the amount of time I could film, and it was difficult to depend on just one finicky colony. 2 years later, I had the good fortune to find a better location on the Osa Peninsula, not so far up the coast from where I was before. This move turned out to be key to the project's success. I found a magical spot right outside of Corcovado National Park, located between two rivers, the mountains, and the ocean. The configuration of trees and plants allowed for a density of leafcutter ant colonies I had never seen before or since. It was sheerly a queendom of ants, and it is to this location I have returned every winter for many years. The Osa Peninsula has been called one of the most biologically intense places on Earth. Here are some pictures of the animals that kept me company while I worked. Yikes. Those are a lot of babies. The Osa is a tropical landscape of extraordinary richness that is estimated to house 2.5% of the biodiversity of the entire world, while covering less than 1/100% of its total surface area. It is lush with more than 300 endemic species of plants and vertebrates, and scary. The most common snake is the deadly fer-de-lance. It's hot and humid and very loud. I could tell the time of day by the rhythm of insect, bird, and animal sounds. One morning during an earthquake, all 4 monkeys screamed at once: the howlers, spiders, squirrel, and capuchins. As I talk about the Leafcutters project and some of the underlying conceptual ideas, I'll show pictures of several of my film sets on the forest floor. The Leafcutters project is an unusual collaboration with millions of wild ants. I work with the colony's natural behavior. They are my collaborators. The ants harvest from a wide variety of plants, and this gives me latitude in what I can offer them to form the narratives of the work. I watch the ants respond, experiment, and adjust. Through this back and forth process, the project took shape. Over the years, I came to feel the real reward for sitting countless hours on the forest floor was observing the dynamics of ant society. One of the principal characteristics humans and ants share is their socialness, and at the heart of a social species is communication. Ants invented an interactive network form of communication that rivals the internet and predates it by millions of years. They constantly converse with one another, using pheromones, sound, and vibrations. They were everywhere. They are nature's ultimate mobile communication devices. Without central command, millions of ants coordinate their behavior to create and sustain massive societies. The accumulation of their small gestures produces enormous complexity. There is a natural parallel between social media and the emergent behavior of social insects. Ants are an interconnected system of individual elements that self-organize to form adaptive, complex behavior. They are driven by the patterns of interactions they experience through the colony's communication network. Ants solve problems by drawing on what is essentially user-generated data. With the rise of social media over the last decade, I've seen our own patterns of communication become more participatory and efficient like theirs, which is not top down but bottom up, and not command and control but connect and collaborate. With ants, it's always multiple decisions made by multiple minds. Therein lies their power, and perhaps ours as well. This is my husband, Charlie Lindsay, who made field recordings of nearly every animal that makes a noise in the jungle. These recordings comprise the soundtracks of my films. I'll show a few highlights from the photographic section of the project, and at the end, I'll show you the video. The work focuses on 4 supposedly unique human traits: language, ritual, war, and art. And the narrative themes aim to blur the boundaries between culture and nature. This piece is a 20-foot-long photographic scroll of the ants descending a tree at night, carrying pieces of leaves and also letters in their mandibles. The title, Colonize the Earth, is in keeping with the ants' ecological power. As the principal herbivore of the rainforest, leafcutter ants are a dominant species, and like us, influence the grand structure of all other biological systems in its habitat. Although they do not clear-cut forests like we do, they can strip a tree in a single night and repeat this night after night. At a time when humans are causing deforestation at an alarming rate, these ants provide rich opportunities for illuminating our impact on the environment. Our history is full of text, both ancient and modern, that aim to heighten divisions and impress superiority across tribes, cultures, and nations. The Leafcutter Ant Project borrows that language and uses it as a metaphor for the relationship between humans and the natural world today. The language of hubris exists in many texts, but I was drawn to the 8th century BC stone reliefs from the Neo-Assyrian Empire housed in the Metropolitan Museum in New York. I've taken 9 passages from these ancient tablets and used them throughout the entire Leafcutter Ant project. We, the chosen, who rule unafraid, builders of greatness, colonize the earth. We roar, no rivals, victory over all. A line of ants carrying green leaves looks like a flickering drawing across the forest floor. I wanted to convert this into a parade, into a pageant of color, calling to mind a Balinese festival or a pagan rite. Leafcutter ants harvest flowers, but won't specifically target them unless the source is abundant. I gathered the flowers myself and offered them to several colonies. One ignored them completely. Others were mostly interested, but one couldn't get enough of them. Leafcutter colonies of the same species exhibit remarkably different behaviors, almost different personalities. Some are flexible and others are oddly stubborn, refusing to take the plant that they are actively harvesting if moved a few feet. It's interesting to note that the most warlike colony in the area was also the most inflexible. Each morning I gathered fresh flowers in the forest and gave them to the colony. Thousands of ants collected the special offerings and carried the cornucopia of color in their mandibles, parading 100 meters across the dark forest floor. And like in a ritualistic procession, they descended into their subterranean world of tunnels and chambers and laid the flowers at the feet of a golden idol. Leafcutter ants are one of the few species to wage organized warfare against their own kind. They even have different strategies depending upon the location and the severity of the war. If the battle is close to home, the large soldiers will come out to defend the colony. If the war is far away, the small and mid-sized workers will fight. Ant wars are hard to find in the forest. The battles spread out into the leaf litter. In order to film these mini gladiators, I placed small white plastic sheets around the area they were fighting. During the day, the ants went about their orderly business cutting leaves, quickly habituating to the new surfaces and ignoring them. But every night, the bellicose colony attacked its neighbor. Though many ants were slaughtered, the colonies did not fight to the death. 3 weeks into the war, the aggressor called it quits. I observed a striking variation amongst ant colonies in their response to the presence of another colony harvesting in the vicinity. Some colonies were highly tolerant of their neighbors, and others were quick to wage war. It seems that even with ants, some groups are peaceful and others are very aggressive. One winter, a large colony harvested from a brightly colored plant with stripes and spots. The pieces of leaves the ants cut look like art, like tiny abstract expressionist paintings. It was art on parade across the forest floor. Who is to say these ants are indifferent to the aesthetics of the leaves they carefully select, cut, and carry home? The next year when I returned to finish this section of the project called Antworks, the colony that starred in the video had vanished, and the colorful plant was in terrible shape. It had not rained in months, and much of the normally lush rainforest was withered and dry. I searched the forest and found a few healthy plants, and was fortunate enough to entice another colony to finish the video. Although patience is a primary color on my artist palette, with this project, my work has been subject at every stage, from concept to production, to the vagaries of climate and the collective decisions of millions of ants. They may be small, but they are far from simple. On grant application, I checked the box next to artist. Perhaps I should select art collective. I never work alone. My collaborators just don't happen to be human. Early on, I raised my colleagues in the studio, fed them, and housed them. The dialogue was between me and the cockroach and me and the praying mantis. But with this project, the exchange is between me and a truly cooperative team of millions. So I'll show you the leafcutter ant video next, and it accentuates the ingenuity of these miniature yet mighty Ada civilizations that inhabit the neotropical rainforest. Well, the original idea when I went to Panama is to use the 9 passages of text from the hubris of the Neo-Assyrian Empire. You know, we rule, you're nobody, we conquer all, we wage war, we're the best, we're this. I thought it was a really sort of interesting relationship to look at that language as a way to impress superiority to their neighbors, let's say. And I feel like today was a perfect metaphor for us in our relationship to the natural world. We rule, we're in charge, you know, we have this power. And so I thought I would use that language, and I thought I would have the ants carry those passages of text. Yeah, well, I got we rule, that was all I got. So, but then in the titles of other parts of the work come the other passages of text. Yeah. We was okay, rule took me 2 days. All right, thank you very much.